Move to amend. What I would like to do is append to the end of this, it says, and to commit the $10,800 in new revenues annually to the road maintenance budget. This is essentially found money, and whenever we come across a situation like this, what I'd like to do is earmark this for roads. We have a priority, as we hear tonight and every other night, that we need to fund our roads. $10,800 isn't going to go very far, but it's headed the right direction. And I think it's the responsible thing to do. If we survived under our existing revenues without this, then we can survive having this earmarked to our road budget.
For $10,800, can hardly do a couple of private driveways.
Well, what are we going to do next year? And there's no plan going forward. My challenge would be to the board, before we keep spending every single penny dry in Winfield for roads, that we get a real plan together to get all the roads done and an ongoing maintenance plan.
Although I would certainly agree that roads are a priority, they aren't the priority.
I find the comments extremely interesting as I sit here and listen to my fellow trustees talk about the importance of repairing roads and needing a plan to repair roads. And all these new revenue sources are going to go into the big black hole called the general fund. Everything in the general fund is discretionary, which means that if they really wanted to, these same trustees, my fellow trustees, and the village president, could allocate enough money every year from your general fund that you already pay for through property taxes to fix the roads. But we don't. Enough already. Fix my roads. Don't talk to me about referendums. People are losing their jobs everywhere. But we're going to pretend like that 10 grand's no big deal. And any found money is the money that can fix a pothole. It's a terrible time to be saying to people, oh, we have a road plan now and it's going to call for a referendum. We already saw that plan. The plan we have now is take what little bit of money we can find out of revenues that we can find, new income that we can find, and put it to the roads. But we're not going to fix the roads because that's what we want to do. We want a referendum. That's the plan. But we're finding little piles of money. Let's use it for the roads.
There's an amendment on the table redirecting those newfound recurring discretionary funds that are going to be recurring and therefore sustainable in the future. I also recognize that we have not, as a board, reached some kind of an agreement as to how we're going to tackle roads.
I am shocked and amazed that everyone that came to their seats in this body under the name Winfield United is against putting a measly $10,800 towards roads. We are making a choice, holding two things up side by side. Should we fund the roads? I think we should. If you say no to this amendment, you're saying no to roads. You're setting the priorities. You're setting what your priorities are. I cannot fathom that you would rather go to a referendum to ask for a tax than to set aside every little piece of money we can to make sure that in a time, the worst economic time since the Great Depression, we don't have to go back to the taxpayer to fix our roads. Half our roads are absolutely shot. We can't wait any longer. It's $10,000. We can't go back to the voters and ask for more money. We can't ask them this year. We probably can't ask them next year. As a matter of fact, we might not be able to ask them for 5 or 10 more years. Did anybody watch the news today? I mean, Europe's in flames. The Dow is down 512 points today. It's down 1,000 points for the last 12 days. We have $10,000 that we're talking about here. Put the money towards roads. It's maintenance. It's the thing that hasn't happened here in 6 years. Take the money, do the right thing, put it into maintenance.
The interesting thing about newfound revenues after a budget's been approved is that that money tends to get lost. That's what I'm trying to communicate with some passion to those of you that don't think that we should take every spare dime that we find and put it into roads.
You can move stuff into budgets and you can move them out. We're earmarking this money for a line item in a budget. We can just as soon, if one of your subjects comes up, if one of those issues, one of those emergencies come up, we can move it out. There's no change, there's no locks on this thing. This is our budget. So when Tony says we need to put the money into a spot, and it is more work on our accounting staff, we put the money into an account, it's to make sure nothing happens to it so it doesn't just get lost inside our budget. If something bad happens, I'm certain that we can all be adults and move some of that money out to address whatever that issue is. We have no bigger issue, no more pressing issue than our roads, and we've been told that by our taxpayers and by our voters. That being said, I listened to Trustee Bajor's comments here, and I've seen the budgets for what we spent on roads, and I've also seen the arguments for why we went to referendum. And the argument was, we didn't get enough money in our MFT funds so that we could fix our roads. Well, you know what you also never did? The other thing that you never did was set aside any more money with your MFT funds so you could make the number so you could maintain the roads at the level they were supposed to be maintained at. This is what we're trying to do. I don't want to go to the voters for another referendum and say, hey, the state government never gave us enough MFT funds so that we could fix our roads. It's our job to come up with the rest of it. This is part of the process. If we have bigger issues that come up in between, like any good family with any budget, you move stuff around to do the pressing things first. If you're saving for new siding for your house, but your wife gets sick, guess what? The money goes to the wife. You get her better, then you start saving for the siding for your house again. This isn't rocket science. What we're asking is to put aside the money, and even on two levels this works. One level in the fact that we're actually setting aside money, and the other level is a symbolic victory for this town, so the town sees that we're actually making progress with the roads, with the money, putting aside money to get done the things we need to get done. This is our #1 priority. Over the Riverwalk, over everything else. This is it. Maintenance. Maintenance of our infrastructure. If we can't do that much, we should pack it up and go home. We should unincorporate and go back to the county. We have, when it boils down to such few responsibilities, maintain our infrastructure. That's what our taxpayers asked us to do.
We are voting on the amendment, and please call the roll.
Trustee Allen?
Yes.
Trustee Olson?
Yes.
Trustee Bajor?
No.
Trustee Hughes?
No.
Trustee Reyes?
Yes.
Trustee Spandy?
No.
It's a tie. President Burtis?
No.